Um, I asked Richard to come here because we worked together, I guess, 15, 17 years ago, something like that. I was hired by a company called Wellbrook in Orlando. They do a lot of hospitality and some educational work. I was a assistant project manager on the Rosen School of Hospitality Management, which is the most beautiful campus building I've ever done. The money and the land for the building was donated by Harris Rosen, and it was a facility intended to teach people about hotel and restaurant management. The floors were marble, the counters are granite, they're stained hardwood throughout, and wrought iron. Just a beautiful, high-level hotel level quality finishes in this educational building, located off Universal Boulevard in Orlando. So it's right in the heart of the tourist district. And I went to work there as an assistant project manager. I had a project manager over me. And in Wellbrook, in their culture and their company hierarchy, traditionally you see a project manager above the superintendent in the hierarchy. But at Wellbrook, they had a project manager who was in charge of reporting and financials and contracts and stuff like that. And then the superintendent, they called a site manager, right? And Richard was, I think, a master site manager, which is the highest level. And in my experience at Wellbrook on that project, I was only there for about a year. I found Richard to be the most technically knowledgeable individual I've ever worked with in the construction industry. But it wasn't just his technical knowledge that I felt set him apart from other people. It was his ability to motivate and lead people. And I've told you guys many times that I felt like managing and invigorating and getting people to do the things you need to do when you need them to do them is probably the hardest part of the job of all. We can learn about how to form concrete and place rebar and how mechanical systems work, even complex systems, chilled water, boilers and all that sort of stuff. But getting people to do the things you need to do when you need to do them is sometimes extraordinarily difficult. So what I learned from Richard was there's a way to lead people. There's a way to influence them to do the things that you want them to do. In my opinion, Richard was excellent at that. I remember sitting in meetings, and Richard was a stickler for quality. Imagine he still is. And he would tell subcontractors, when you put work on top of someone else's work that is deficient, your work is just as bad as theirs. You have to make sure that when someone frames a wall and then you hang drywall on it, that framing is as good as it can be. Because when you put drywall on it, now we've got to go back and remove that drywall, fix the framing. So he was a stickler for quality. And I remember him emphasizing that point to a subcontractor in a weekly meeting. And Richard could get a little tough. And I remember him putting that point on one of our subcontractors. And I thought the guy, was going to come apart because it was a bit of a tough moment. And as soon as that meeting was over, Richard walked up to him, put his arm around him, made a joke, and they're right back to being friends and working good again together. So I realized that there's some tough love that sometimes you have to exhibit. There's a certain degree of assertiveness, but in the end, you have to come back together and work with people. And I've told people this before. Richard is one of my construction industry superheroes. You don't always know in your life when you've made an impact on somebody, when you've influenced somebody in a positive way. But Richard, you were a positive influence in my life and somebody that I've admired for a long time. I have talked about Richard in the classes that I taught at University of Florida, and I've taught here many times. And in last semester's class, I was again revisiting one of my Richard stories. And Manny reaches into his wallet and says, "This Richard Rodriguez?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." And I described it, and it sounded just like so I was expecting that you're still going to be at Wellbrook, and you moved on to Purtle. So I'm interested in hearing that story about how you made that transition. And I said, "I'm going to call Richard today," and I did. And from that, we regendered our friendship, and I invited him to come here, and here he is tonight, and I asked him to tell his story about how he came up in the industry and how he got to where he is now, and all the in-between. So, Richard, if you would.
Okay,
thank you.
I'm gonna hire myself, after that. I really appreciate. Thank you for having me come here, because you go through life and you don't realize when you touch somebody or leave an impact, because you're drilling through. And the one thing that my wife and I, we joke about, we says, life doesn't come with instructions, to see if we can get it right the first time. And if you notice, I don't have a PowerPoint. I don't have any handouts. I'm sorry, I don't have any candy dishes or anything like that. Because really, I'm just here to share a little something. I'm here to share a story. It's my journey. And we all have our life's journey. And then sometimes you look back and you reflect, and somebody like Kevin will remind you, that your journey had purpose. And so, and my journey began a long time ago. It didn't just start magically in construction. I mean, it's interesting when you look back and think that you struggle through what we go through, and what's good, what's bad, what benefited, what didn't work. So I'll share how I got to where I am. My title is just a title. I'm the director of operations for Pirtle Construction. I run roughly $100 and change million division. It's a Central Florida division. We have an office in Palm Beach, Lauderdale, and Miami, and I'm blessed to be part of that. But my journey is 32 years old, and that's my construction journey is 32 years old. But my journey is a lot longer than that. If you think about where I came from, heck, at 5 years old I didn't speak English. My parents immigrated. They came from Puerto Rico. They came here in the late 50s to, search the American dream. And granted, my dad went to school at night, and then he instilled this work ethic for my entire life that I carry with me. He says, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to be the first one there. I'm going to be the last one to leave, and every day that employer is going to know that he can count on me being there, and that's kind of ingrained in my head. And so he was successful in his right, and then you go to school. So I started my journey at learning English when I was when I was in kindergarten, and English is a second language, believe that. And now I can't get rid of my New York accent. But you have to ask yourself, so where's my passion? What drives me? What makes me who I am? And interestingly enough, it happened when I went to high school. So I go to high school, and there's an instructor gives me this pencil, and they're teaching me. I hated algebra, but now that's all I use now is algebra. But he gave me this pencil, and he started teaching me how to draft. And it became apparent at that moment that would be an important piece of my life, because to be able to draw something on a piece of paper, and it was it was a cardboard piece of paper. To be able to draw something on a piece of paper, and then to fold it into a three-dimensional object, be it a hexagon, a triangle, a cube, whatever it is, was fascinating to me. That I could sit there and I could look at this, and I draw it, and I could see exactly what it was, and I put it together, and there it is. There's the three-dimensional piece that came off. I didn't realize how important I was until years later. So with that kind of armor, my strive was, I'm going to be an architect. Because I can see drawing. And I used to draw. I learned perspective, how to draw in depth, and do all these things. And so it was like, okay, that's my charge. And I was applying for St. John's University, and I'm going to be an architect. Then I had a counselor who pulls me aside. He says, hey, listen, good luck, because you're going to go to school for a long time, and then you're going to have to go ahead and intern. You're going to have to do your residencies and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, good God, just let me be a doctor, okay? He said, but then in order for you to be certified, you're going to have to go before the board of architects, and if they don't like the color of your tie, you're not going to get it. I said at that point, because I'm a hard-hit New Yorker, I said, screw that, and I didn't go. I didn't follow that dream, okay? So I went to a small college, Mercy College, to get business administration, and I quickly found out that wasn't my game. That was not what interested me. That wasn't my passion. And so, I thought back to, my dad, who said, hey, listen, you're gonna have three options in this house. One of them is going to be, you're going to go to school. And if you go to school, it's full ride, cover, pay for everything. He says, if not, you're going to get a job. And if you get a job, then you become part of the income producer of the house. You're going to have to participate and pay bills. And I thought, a basic, that's that baby boomer attitude. You're going to be part of this thing. And the third option is going to be, you can't do either of those. You're going to have to join the military. So I'm out of college. I'm looking hard 2 weeks. I'm gonna go ahead and get a job. I'm gonna hit the workforce. I'll pay rent. Damn it, you know. Couldn't do it. Top of the hill was a recruiter's office. I walked inside and joined the Air Force. Okay. So I'm a former military. For those of you that serve your country, thank you for your service. That's what I did. Okay. And the whole idea of me not finding a job later became evident to me. Okay. And that is that I did not have a marketable skill. Okay. And so a lot of us go through life and we don't have that. We don't have something that somebody else is willing to pay for me to produce. And we don't know how important that is until later in life when you're trying to get a job and the only thing you can do is bust tables. Okay? So I served my country, got out, became a civilian. I said, well, okay, I can start. What I didn't realize is I still didn't have a marketable skill. Because what I learned in the military was not applicable in civilian life. People don't want to hire guys that play with bombs. It's just not cohesive. So now I think to myself, here I am, wasted this time, I'm back as a civilian, what do I do now? Okay? Now, the military did teach me something, and not the snot of this, wise ass Puerto Rican from New York, to realize that you're independent, you have to become part of society and become a productive member. But the only thing I can do is what? I'm not a plumber, I'm not an electrician, I don't have a trade, okay? So the only thing I could find is I found a job as a roofer. And the reason I went into construction was similar because I couldn't see myself in an environment that wasn't similar to that of the military. The military was specific. It had rank. You knew who the boss was. You knew you had a task. You were given that task. You go out there, march, take that field, come back. There's promotions. That very structure appealed to me. Okay? But what didn't appeal to me was the fact that I was slinging hot tar on a roof. In the summer, that roof's going to be 130, 140 degrees, and you knew that it was a problem when in November it's snowing outside and it's 120 on the roof. And so I quickly imagined myself, the guy next to me, he's heaving the black tar because he's breathing this. And I don't want to be him when I'm 40 years old, but I can't solve my other problem. That's that marketable skill. So quickly realized I need to go back to school. Similar to what you guys are doing. Some of you guys are working. I'm proud of that, because that's what I did. I had to work and go to school. Now, what I remember was that I used to draft, and I enjoyed that. So I went to MIT, not that MIT, it's Manhattan Institute of Technology in Manhattan, and I certified as a draftsman, okay? Something that I enjoyed drawing buildings, I enjoyed being able to put that to task, and that's something that I did. So I certified, I went to work as what? As a plumbing detailer, as a draftsman. That's why my first job that I had a skill that somebody wanted to buy, okay? Now, in this job that I had, what did I do? So in those days, we didn't really have CAD and BIM and all that stuff in there. You were drawing, you were literally drawing, you were measuring, you had a fitting book, you're measuring the Y or the combo fitting, and that's 3.5 inches, 3.5 inches, you're scaling it down, you're drawing each piece, okay? But I started noticing that it became natural because I'm watching this thing, I'm putting it on paper, but I'm seeing it in real life. So I'm seeing that fitting go down, okay? So they gave me an opportunity to go out there and coordinate a project for a plumbing contract. Now we all know coordination nowadays happens in the computer, okay? Well, in those days we drew on Mylar, which is basically see-through paper, okay, with thick plastic paper. And you show up with your shop drawings in tow, and then you have your HVAC, your air conditioning guy, you have your fire protection guy, you've got your, all the other trades. They show up with their Mylars. And then they have this box about like that big, this big. It's got a plexiglass top with lights underneath it. So it's kind of known as the light table. You throw your sheets on it, and then you start to say, hey, I'm in this space right there, and I'm conflicting with that light, I'm conflicting with this ductwork, I'm conflicting with that. And everybody has a debate. So this is how I learned. This is how I learned how to have these discussions and how do you win an argument, okay? Because I'm saying, hey, my plumbing line needs to go here. And then the duct guys go, I can't change my duct. Well, little did he know that, remember, I was working and then going to school at night. So after I certified as a draftsman, so I went to school for mechanical systems design, electrical gear distribution design, so that I could know what my competitor was doing. So when I sat in a meeting in there and they said, I can't move that duct up because it's too fat, I said, hey, how about this ductulator? And if you consider the concept of that's just moving air, that you can squish it down by making it wider, and as long as you maintain the same moving airspace in the middle, then I can accomplish that. Well, he got kind of mad because it was right. So I now found where my niche was. My niche was that I can see in 3 dimensions because of what I learned when I was in high school. That I could put something down on paper, and I'm looking at this document here, and I'm seeing that the plumbing is here, this is here, and I can visualize where all this space goes, okay? You walk into a space, and now you can kind of command that. So one of the most important things that I'll tell you guys to learn that are in construction is please learn your blueprint reading, because that is your roadmap, that's your Bible, is understanding what a blueprint is telling you, and then learn how to navigate through that space. So I did this for about 6 months. Okay, so now I'm happy. I'm going home. I've got a marketable skill. I'm in an office. Life is good. And then I didn't realize, so I'm sitting in this meeting one day, and I know you're the ductwork guy. Okay, you're the electrician. I'm the plumber. Okay, I know who you are, fire protection. And then there's this other guy standing in the back over there. He's just like, yeah, he's the owner of the light table. Okay, well, the owner of the light table is the contractor. Okay, and in short time, they pulled me aside and said, hey, what you can do is being wasted on one trade. So he was the superintendent for Morse Diesel, which is now owned by AMIC. Okay, so now early in my career, I had an opportunity for immediately shift from subcontractor market into a contractor market as a MEP superintendent. That's a superintendent that specializes in mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. I knew jack about building construction, but I knew my plumbing, and I knew that duct, and I knew how to navigate that space. So I went out there with this company, and they gave me a remarkable opportunity. Okay, they're a big company. They were competing against the Turners and the Tishmans of the world. Those are the big contracting companies in New York that built things like the World Trade Center and stuff. And so I had the opportunity to work on projects like that. So I worked on building number 7 of the World Trade Center, which is a Merrill Lynch. They got it the building to do trading floors. Okay. And I'm in that building, and I spent a good year of literally just chasing mechanical issues and looking at plumbers and reporting back to another superintendent who was kind of taking me under his wing and training me. Because when you start anything, you need to make sure that what you have to do is you have to learn. And when you graduate here, please don't walk out there and think that you know what you don't know. Every day, I've been in construction for 32 years. Every day I try to learn something new.